ranking member of the House Armed Services Committee, Congressman Adam Smith of Washington. Congressman, thanks for being here. In the last couple of days, the president's been making phone calls. He's done some interviews. He's held rallies. He's meeting with NATO leaders. I know you've had meetings with your colleagues on the Hill. Has anything changed your mind about the president's candidacy and his ability to serve another 4 years?
No, and I think that's a great summary of what you just saw there. Too many people in our party right now are basically saying, we are deeply concerned, but what are you going to do about it? And I'm like, that's just very frustrating given the stakes here. If we're deeply concerned, then the choice is obvious. Look, we would all like the choice whereby we don't have to do anything difficult. And the president decides, look, great 4 years, done a terrific job. I'm not up for this fight, and the fight is too important. We have other candidates who could do a better job and step aside. That's what I wanted, okay? Day after the debate, I called the White House, said I think he should step aside. But, I'm not going to make a snap judgment. I'm going to give you some time, give you some space. 11 days later, it was clear that wasn't going to happen. So what I would ask of Democrats at this point is you're either all in or you're deeply concerned. You can't be both, all right? And the illogic of that position is increasingly frustrating to me. I see this very clearly. I think we have a substantially better chance of winning this election in November if we have a different nominee. And I think the stakes are so high, given that reality, we have to do everything in our power to try to get to that different nominee. I think it's just that.
You say that there's clarity for you and that the choice should be clear. I spoke with a Democratic mayor, Kansas City, Missouri, who also spoke with clarity that he believes Joe Biden is the best candidate for this country. Those were his words.
And good for him, by the way, and that's fine. And I disagree with that position, but it is a position. What is not a position is I'm deeply concerned. I think we're going to lose. I'm not going to do anything about that. And look, I completely respect, people, I don't know who the mayor of Kansas City is, but good for him. If you say, I've looked at it and, we don't have another choice. And by the way, right now, if you told me it's August, whatever, and he is officially our nominee, okay, because right now he's not, he's the presumptive nominee. He's officially nominee. I'll come on this show and I will make the argument for why Joe Biden is the best candidate in this field. And I'll make it with great passion and 100% commitment because I believe it. I do. Of the existing field, Joe Biden is the best candidate. But there are a whole host of other Democrats that would give us a much, much better chance at winning in November. And I think we ought to pick one of those other candidates.
You're coming out here, you are sort of sticking your neck out to say what you're saying publicly, repeatedly, and yet Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi was on MSNBC this morning suggesting your process here is the wrong one. Listen.
Said to everyone, let's just hold off. Whatever you're thinking, either tell somebody privately, but you don't have to put that out on the table until we see how we go this week.
Help us understand, Congressman, your calculation to put it out on the table.
Yeah, no, I understand what Nancy said, and I strongly disagree with her. I think the White House strategy became very clear after the debate, and that strategy was nothing to see here, ignore the problem, run out the clock, and then make everybody live with it. Like I said, I tried the speech. I think of her as the speaker, always will. I tried, the speaker's strategy for 11 days. That, okay, if we're just quiet, we don't say anything, we're nice about it, they'll come to the right decision. It was blindingly obvious by 2 days ago that was not what was going to happen, that we had to force it forward. And look, it's an aspect of my personality. I'm, when I think there's something that's right to do, I'm fairly forceful about it. I think it has served my constituents well to not do what needs to be done in a given situation to accomplish it. If I thought that the speaker's strategy would work, if I thought if we're just quiet, I had background conversations. I spoke to several people on the campaign, several people at the White House. I did all of that. I think at this point, and I would, and I'll have this conversation with Nancy when next I see her, maybe there's stuff going on behind the scenes that I'm unaware of.
Well,
okay, maybe that is distinctly possible, but I don't think so.
You've said you're 1,000% confident that another candidate would have better odds of beating Trump in November. If you could hand select that alternative nominee, who would it be?
Well, two things. Number one, I wouldn't, because I don't want to presume that somehow I'm going to make the choice instead of the delegates who have been picked to make that choice. That's our process. That's who they are, and those delegates should make that choice. If they ask me my opinion, I would say we should nominate Kamala Harris. I think the vice president has done an outstanding job, particularly the last couple of years. She's a former prosecutor. She's clear, articulate. I've used the phrase during many of my conversations here. We need someone to prosecute the case against Donald Trump and for the Democratic message and the Democratic agenda. I think we've got a powerful argument. And that was, the debate was incredibly frustrating. We got a powerful argument, and President Biden was completely incapable of making it, any part of it. Okay, I think Kamala Harris can do that. And also, we have the added benefit that because she's his vice president, during all of those primaries, it was the Biden-Harris team that people were voting for. And I think that's a factor. Now, I don't agree with, well, all these people voted for Joe Biden. All those people hadn't seen that debate yet. All those people hadn't experienced the questions that are now being raised about the president's health. But nonetheless, it would help that Vice President Harris had been on the ticket. I think she would give us a better choice. But there are others. And look, it's really not that complicated. I forget how many delegates there are, 3,900, something like that. It's an election, all right? 3,900 people. Let's pick a person. And look, the talent in the Democratic Party, this myth that only Joe Biden could have beaten Donald Trump. Chuck Todd, I think he works for you, could be wrong. But anyway, he wrote a great column this morning that said it's always been about Trump. And I've said this over and over again. Joe Biden was not picked in 2020 because he was the only person who could beat Trump. He was picked because he was the only person that could beat Bernie Sanders, rightly or wrongly. And by the way, for the Sanders fans out there, I'm not judging, but that conclusion was made, okay? Oh my gosh, coming out of Nevada, Bernie Sanders is going to be the nominee. And people, just like they are now, back then said, yeah, I don't think that's going to work. So they were looking for an alternative. And tip of the hat to Joe Biden, he had the record. 8 great years as vice president, 30 whatever years as a very able United States. He was the right person at that time. And that's great. He's not the right person now.
Congressman.
And anyway, you get the point. I think we can do better. I hope we'll have a serious conversation about it.
Congressman Adam Smith, thank you for joining us and spending time offering those thoughts this morning.